So now back to our incredible lineup of content today, and we've got the equally incredible Chris Kenna, who's the CEO of Brandadvance. He's going to be talking to us about using contextual sentiment for behavioural change. Chris, you've got 99 seconds or I will horn you off. Over to you.
Okay, you go to the next slide. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of something that we stumbled on by accident. So Brandadvance doesn't necessarily call itself a social media agency, but what we have is a platform that links all of the diversity media. So we serve the ads within all Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, LGBTQ+, disability, religion, etc. Sitting on top of our platform so that we weren't doing things that, I myself call out in the industry, like keyword blocking. We've been using IBM Watson AI on top of our platform. So it reads every article across all 550 publications and platforms, reads the context and can tell COVID positive sentiment and COVID negative sentiment. But what I suppose the accidental bit that we've come from this is, because this is all real-time data, if you could go to the next slide, it means that actually in real time, and by real time I mean every 175 milliseconds, we can know sort of the sentiment within different demographics in the UK. So we can tell if more people in Manchester are reading positive sentiment around a particular keyword or key phrase than in London. And having this data in real time, knowing how much positive sentiment or negative sentiment is being engaged with, and exactly down to the postcode of where it's been engaged, meant that we could then use this data in one of our first social media. So the next slide, and I know I'm going to run out of time, but where we did it for the NHS and made sure that we could influence people to stick to the COVID government's campaign. And then the next slide gives you the results where action intent.
Chris, sorry, I have to be strict. That's your 99 seconds up. Thank you so much. And now we're going to turn to questions. I really can't sort of have favourites. So first question, Dominica says, how is the positive or negative sentiment defined by Watson? How do they score that? So you give us a bit of background information on that.
IBM Watson's one of the most trained language AIs that there is out there at the moment. And there's a lot more technical people that could break it down for you, but the levels that I know is that it will take out different key phrases that it has learned, and it knows the sentiment of them key phrases. And then, so COVID, NHS, the NHS are heroes. It will pick out heroes, positive word. It will pick out other words within that. And so COVID, NHS would still be quite positive until it says the death rate has risen. Death, risen, they would be classed as negative. Stick them together, they're a double negative, then it would know that that's a very negative sentiment compared to the positive of NHS heroes.
Right, fantastic. A question here from Steph, and she asked, and again, this is a question we don't have all week, I think, but a valid question. She says, what brands have you been most impressed with over the last 3 months? I guess how they've reacted to the pandemic.
What, specifically around COVID, or?
Yeah, I guess how brands have reacted, in terms of dealing with their consumers and dealing with what's been going on.
Yeah. Brands that have been good are brands like Unilever, Tesco's, in all honesty, and I'm sure I'm not speaking out of turn, they are brands that have not done so bad during COVID because the shops were still open, Tesco's was still open, so they've had the luxury of continued consumers to then be able to continue with campaigns that push good. But most brands that have spoken have to be useful now, don't they? I think that's the change of the world, is we don't need an ad anymore, but we need usefulness. So I think anybody's going to be that.
Fantastic. We've got a minute left. John asked, it's quite a similar question. How responsible have media been during the pandemic?
Well, let me do a positive, because I'm sure you all know I spout off enough negative about media. The upspend in Black, Asian, minority, ethnic since COVID started is about 300% in multi-ethnic media. So, Yeah, there's loads of negatives, and I could spout you a thousand, but there's a positive that's been happening since COVID started.
Great way to end on a positive note, Chris. Chris, thank you so much. You're amazing as always.